All right, party people. Today is a festive intergalactic holiday. May the 4th be with you all. And it's also an intergalactic holiday because we have two of my favorite leaders in our space, y'all. We've got our Lisa Crispin, who I love, just one of the best people out there, co-founder with Janet Gregory of the Agile Testing Fellowship. Avi, you already know them. They're an international celebrated author. I have their books. I'm obsessed with them. You can check out their amazing work with the Agile Testing Fellowship, and we'll be sure to drop those resources as well. How are you today, Lisa?
I'm doing great, and I'm so honored to be on your I don't even know what to call this LinkedIn audio event because I've listened to the other ones that you've had with really great leading practitioners and been so inspired by them. So yeah,
Oh, I
thank you
love
for
that.
putting these on.
Oh my gosh, it's literally the least stage mom could do. And I have to say, I'm obsessed with LinkedIn Live audio events. They are the interactive podcast that we need and deserve in 2023. So I'm thrilled you're here. And I want to also introduce another leader who I had the privilege of meeting in person, although I've been a fan online for years. Finally got to meet them last year at the Agile Testing Days USA. And I just have been obsessed with them ever since. I want to have you all meet Larissa Rosochansky, who is a speaker, has been head of quality, has been an executive, and currently is doing some amazing freelance work. You can check them out as well. Also delivery principal at ThoughtWorks. But I wanted to just say this is also a leader that knows how to bring teams together, knows how to drive results for quality in your organization for all of your teams, has also been in the trenches like Lisa when it comes to working with cross-functional teams, as well as all the way up to the C-suite. Larissa, how are you today?
Great. I'm really excited to be here. And it is the first for me for this live event at LinkedIn. So really interested. And oh my God, I just love you guys so much. So I'm really thrilled to be here.
We love you too. And we have a lot of great questions that some of y'all have submitted. So I just want to dive into the topic today, y'all. It's how to build more effective relationships with your developers. This is the #1 most requested topic that y'all had asked for. And so I couldn't think of two better speakers to connect with. Shameless plug to the Agile TD community. They've been working really hard organizing a number of amazing conferences around the world. And so we've been showcasing some of our speakers for the past few months, as well as giving you all a free virtual seat at the table to connect with them, ask questions. If any of the questions you all wanted to have submitted in addition to these, we don't cover, just DM me and we'll try and get to them in order that they were received. If we don't get to your questions, we want to encourage you to continue the conversation in the Agile TD Zone community on Slack. All these amazing leaders are available to you all. And I want to say as well, I know a lot of people right now, we're living in uncertain times with the global economy, doing some roller coasters. So I know a lot of you have been impacted by reorgs, or maybe you're looking for a career shift. Well, I want to say Jose and the whole team there have done a great job of offering some free tickets. So if you go check out for upcoming Agile Testing Days USA, it's going to be coming up in May, actually, May 22nd. We're going to have some tutorials and then conferences the 23rd, 24th. But today you can get a 40% off discount. I know. So I think I just posted it on LinkedIn. So go find me. But it's Agile Force _40. But let's just dive in, y'all, because we got a lot to cover. And I would not be a stage mom, aka Tristan Lombard, if we did not have a session where there's pragmatic solutions for you to bring back to your teams. So I just want to go into it, and I think I put this event specifically on this holiday because I am a not so closeted nerd. And I'm thinking a lot about Yoda, right? And that famous quote, you must unlearn what you've learned. And so I want to open up the conversation when it comes to building more effective relationships with developers. I'd love to know what's one strategy that you wish clients would unlearn. And I want to start with Lisa.
Yeah, it's a great question. We don't think about unlearning, but it's really important. It's the first step of change. And a lot of testers, in my experience, and myself included, back in the day, working in less agile or less modern development environments, they've probably been trained, don't test anything until it's done, because otherwise you'll test it more than once, and that's wasteful. And so it's really hard to shift that mindset. Let's only look for the bugs after the coding is done. to bug prevention and the value of testing early and often and collaborating with developers. That's a really tough mindset shift for some people. And there are a lot of really good ways to help people get over that. There's one of my colleagues, Nanda, I can't say his last name. He invented a game with Jenga blocks, test early, test often, that helps people see graphically why testing early is more effective, and repeated testing saves you time. So there's a lot of ways to get around that.
Don't threaten me with the good time. I love a Jenga moment. And we'll make sure to make a note to drop that in the resources as well in our event recap. I love that. Larissa, what about you? Same question. Like, what are some of the unlearning strategies that you wish that clients could kind of put into effect?
So for me, it's really interesting that we, as old testers that have been around for so long, we were told to never look into code. So only the developer should look into code. We never do unit testing, or the developer is my nemesis or anything like this. So this, I would love that the customer would learn, and us as well to learn, because we still see a lot of it. And one thing that for Agile mostly that we need, and for everything actually, is to break the silos and really to understand that there is no QA and dev. There is us, there is the product. So this is really important, that if we do make the QA as the guardian and not the assurance of quality, so being an effective part of the planning, so the tester that should be in the planning, should be everywhere, and helping developers with the testing strategies. We can start to building trust with developers, and we as testers trust into them as well. So to start building this health relationship.
No, I can appreciate that. I have to also just add on to that is that that was profound. I've been in this space now as a recovering social worker and in the nonprofit space for 7 years. And I definitely, I feel like for me, there's so much conflict that is not necessary. And I have also worked for a ton of different testing solutions now. And I can't help but feel like in this industry with capitalism as well, it sells to have this like us versus them approach. And you see it in the memes and you see it in the GIFs. I see it all. I'm online, y'all. And I think it doesn't help us at all. It sells tools, but it doesn't sell more effective relationships. And so I wish people would also step out of their comfort zone. And I really like what you both said about investigating, getting into the code. There's so many other great resources out there right now. And for people that are looking to make themselves more competitive in this very competitive job market, I don't understand why people aren't embracing and learning new things. Shout out to all of you that are getting out and getting into coding. I also do want to shout out Test Automation University. And if anyone who's listening to this recording and or this call is looking to upskill, they're looking for new ways to get involved, take new courses for free, let me know. You don't need to take and pay for all this stuff online. It's all free. But I do want to dive in a little bit more on this topic, right? We know that pairing is a great way to eliminate some of that unconscious bias in work. But I'm curious for you all in this extremely remote work era, what are some of your preferred tools to help make pairing more effective with devs and software testers? And I want to start with Lisa.
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button.
Story my life.
Thank you. Yes. Well, first of all, I would shout out to Lisa Haka and look at her blog, and we can put that in your show notes too, because she's got some really great tips on how she's gotten developers to pair with her. Personally, I like to use the strong style pairing where one person drives, the other one navigates, and then you switch roles pretty often. Because especially if you're pairing for testing, the person who's navigating has a chance to really observe. It's just like riding in a car. If you're driving, you can't look at the scenery. But if you're in the passenger seat, you can. And it really helps overcome a lot of those unconscious biases, confirmation bias and availability bias and things like that, because you're each taking turns looking at the scenery. So, and it's fun. And I also would suggest when you start pairing with people, if you can get them to pair, just do a very short session. Even 15 or 30 minutes is plenty. And then at the end, have a little debrief, a little retro. How did that go? How did that feel? Could we do something that would make it feel better?
I like that. I can appreciate that. I was reading a quote, and it was saying, sometimes you have to sit down so others can stand up. So I really like that idea around a passenger car metaphor. And again, as I remind everyone in this Happy Meal edition of Game of Thrones that is software quality at times, don't let your ego get in the way of driving results for you and your team. I want to ask the same question, though, to Larissa, thinking a little bit more about pairing as a way to eliminate unconscious bias in work. What are some effective tools you've seen out there for pairing?
One tool that works a lot is remote, as surprising as it is the dev box testing. So, and I have seen too much friction between devs and QA. And then when they start to do the dev box testing, it's decreased immensely. So, and for those that doesn't know what is the dev box testing, it's when we have a session between the devs, everyone that is interested in QA and the PO and business to show how the feature was implemented into the dev's machine. So he shows how he implemented it, he shows the feature, and we have ownership from the QA, from the business as well, because they are seeing live what is going on. And then they start to understand, and then the dev, they give access to the testers, to the PO, for they to fiddle into the dev's machine again, so they can play out with the feature to understand a little bit better. And when we start doing the dev box, oh my God, that increased so much. So we have the QA, the quality engineering, had a better sense of the code, start to understand more the code. We have more inputs, really easy. And so it was, for me, one of the best techniques that I have seen to work to enhance the team communication and also to create the confidence for everyone about the feature,
I love that. I'm thinking a little bit more. That's super, super. I love that. So pragmatic. Thinking a little bit more about measuring that. Do you find a way when it comes to measuring the effectiveness of these dev, box testing? Is there like a score that you ever have after the session? Like, do you let people know, like at the beginning, you're talking about trust, right? Like I've seen software quality leaders in the past say, okay, when it comes to pairing, let's talk a little bit about your trust with your dev teams on a scale of 1 to 4, right? 1 being I don't trust at all to, do X, 4 being I really do, and then doing that same score a month after. I've seen some of that work around baseline just to show the C-suite that there's being more effective cross-functional collaboration. Have you ever seen either of you seen any of your clients implement anything similar around, effectiveness of dev box testing?
Yes, actually, what we have done was to actually to log the fact that we had found dev box and just put a tag in dev box. But to understand, but actually the team would understand that this was just for us to understand the process that could be improved and not, oh my God, it's the dev's fault. So when we log the defect in the dev box testing and we start to see how that will decrease over time, it's really interesting to get the effectiveness of it. And I love your idea to put the build to have an NPS or such to how the trust. I will try that actually.
We're just here for some ideas. Just because a lot of people are like, well, why are you doing this? How is that helping us drive our business goals? And it's like, well, hey, here, this is important. Lisa, you're going to chime in.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to experiment with, and I love that technique. And you could even use measurements like the cycle time. How long did it take to get that user story into production? And if you see the cycle time go down when you use dev box testing, that's some good data. Or if you see, maybe you're having a problem where the product owner rejects the stories because maybe there aren't any official bugs, but it wasn't what the product owner really wanted. So if you see that rejection rate go down, so look for different things, do experiments, try something out, and look for ways to measure how effective it was. That's a great tip, Tristan.
What's left of my hair is full of secrets from all of my House of Stage Mob members, so I'm here for it. Larissa, you're going to say something?
I'm just laughing. I love the way that things are being put, and really is amazing.
I feel the same. And it is, a festive intergalactic holiday, y'all. So I want to kind of dive into, we're talking a little bit about those that, may be a little bit more on the angry side. And we know that anger is a path to the dark side. So thinking a little bit more around what have been some effective ways that you've seen quality professionals help unwilling developers kind of cultivate a test first approach, even if the developers aren't necessarily following those formal test-driven development practices. And I want to start with Lisa.
Well, I mean, if test-driven development or test-first development has been shown to be so incredibly effective, and even to prevent the 80% of the bugs that people not doing TDD experience. However, it doesn't have a really wide adoption, and I think part of that is, in my experience, the teams I've been on, it's quite a steep learning curve. You're learning something kind of hard to do, and it's going to take longer for a while to write these tests first as you're writing the code. So I found as a tester, I have not been able to really. I've tried a lot of things, like from the book Fearless Change by Linda Rising and Mary Lynn Manns. I've tried a lot of techniques there, like getting a developer who's also in favor of trying it. But I also find this is an area where you really need management support, because it's an investment in time, and the business is probably thinking, no, we want features, hurry up. So I think our best effort is to start trying to educate our management and leadership and try to show them, try to influence them to just experiment with it, give it a try on maybe one team or something like that. But it is hard, even though the big investment pays off. It's hard to convince people that. I don't want to be such a downer, but do try.
No. I love that. And I know that some people want to chime in. We're going to leave time for some questions at the end. So make note of your questions. And then when we get closer to the end, we're going to bring some of you on stage. But I saw you, Mike. You're a gem. I'm excited about this. I do want to just ask as a follow-up to that, though, Lisa. We know management has the attention span of a goldfish, and rightfully so, because they're doing a million things. Is there like a quick, easy resource? Because I know you talked about Fearless Change by Linda Rising and Mary Lynn Manns, but is there like a blog or a few quick stats, or is there just like a quick resource we can get over to management and be like, hey, look over here, or something to convince them about the investment?
There are a lot of good blog posts and videos about it, and probably I would try to get them to maybe sit down and watch a video. The problem is, one thing I learned from Linda Rising is, as humans, facts and logic don't influence us very much. But if you can, get a video from somebody like Martin Fowler or Dave Farley or Liz Keogh that talks about the benefits and the joy, because every developer I've worked with who got the hang of test-driven development would never code any other way. They love it. And so getting input from people who've done it and who love it and who can share that excitement, I think that's one way to try.
I love that. Larissa, I want to know your thoughts on this topic. You've been doing this for quite some time now.
Yes, I think one of the teams that I had one QA that was a developer, and he was transitioning careers. And for me, it was so interesting to notice that he empathized with the developers, with the hardships that they go beyond measure. And so it was a really good team and high performance team. So I think, but it's not the norm, and we all know that. So what I think is the best way to do it is to get someone that the devs, and of course, executive support is key for us to do this, but also inside our team, who is the senior dev, who is the tech lead, the architect, and to get their buy-in to have this as well, so they can look, so the developer can look up into this senior role, into this senior person, and say, hey, let us build trust, and start building the trust with the QA. So with the quality engineers, so we can start building this relationship and saying, hey, TDD is nice, TDD is okay. So, and then we start, it's a journey. So, what if we, in the next feature, we think about the tests? So let us start doing, instead of just coding, what is the task that you're going to write it? And then not just say TDD, because many devs go, oh my God, TDD again, but just asking probing questions that will make them think and think like TDD and not knowing this is TDD. This is really interesting. And also for us to be able to work with this, to get to, as a team, to work together. Because for me, the most important thing is empathy. And sometimes we don't have as developers, or we don't have as testers, the empathy necessary for what's going on with the other role. So for me, this is really, really important. And we start this journey. And so one day we get this, and the tech lead is there, and he's driving it. And the next day he is driving a little less until it becomes the norm, you know?
No, I like that. And you both said a few things. I think one of the things that I've learned is every organization that I've joined since I've been in tech, I've always either founded or co-founded our DEI program. And what I've learned from some of the white male cisgendered men on the C-suite, God bless you all dearly, is that DEI, right, for example, has been kind of co-opted. So I changed the name to belonging just to get more buy-in, because then everyone is thinking, oh, what's belonging? What's belonging? So I think the same thing I've also seen be very effective when it comes to terms that we've kind of been co-opted and made adversarial in our industry and software quality. So I love this idea of what you said, Larissa, about calling it something else, because then people are going to have more conversations about it. So I just hope anyone starts branding their own internal quality efforts, make it something fun and effective internally. That's a big part of it. And I like what you all said about empathy too. I'm always building cases of empathy for other people. And it's not just so I don't murder them, it's also for my blood pressure. But what I will say is that one of the things I've seen be really effective with some of my House of Stage Mom members over these past years and customers has been kind of taking into practice Dominica DeGrandis. She has an amazing book, y'all, and it's called Making Work Visible: How to Optimize Workflow and Expose Time Theft. And she says, if you can't see your work, how can you manage it? And it's such a quick read. I bought like 10 copies. So I highly encourage y'all to check it out. And for anyone who does want to come up and speak, I'm making a note in the queue here. We are going to leave a little bit of time at the end because we want this to be interactive. So be sure to just wait a little bit more. I'm really, really excited for y'all to meet these amazing speakers. But I want to make sure we cover another pre-submitted question from one of our community members who couldn't be here today. And for them, you know, we say agile, and for so often though, we just get caught in this like usual waterfall era game, right? And so also furthermore, I don't know if y'all can relate, but who are listening, but agile has been seen as negative by some professionals in the software development industry. A lot of great memes out there, and I'm actually here for them. I'm curious though, how do testers assert the benefits of modern agile development while continuing to shift left with their devs? I'm gonna start with Lisa.
Excuse me. Yes, we have not only to shift left, we have to get our team engaged in all those testing activities all the way around that infinite loop of software development. So I've seen, you know, like you say, the term agile, who knows what that means anymore. A lot of people see it really negatively. I've seen that these days, the past few years, sometimes it works better to say, let's transform to a DevOps culture, because it's the same thing, right? A different label. And it's more inclusive, because now we're going to make sure we include our operations specialists, like our site reliability engineers, our platform engineers, and get them collaborating with the feature teams, with the delivery teams. And those people can help everybody see the value of doing smaller, more frequent deploys to production, moving towards continuous delivery. And of course, that involves being able to have good automated regression tests, especially at the unit level. So going back to that test first idea. And I just feel like you're getting a wider influence, a more diverse approach to it. And, you know, everybody, you know, let's use a term that's popular now. Everybody loves DevOps. Let's do that. And let's get everybody involved in working together.
I love that. I love that. We're just talking about a spoonful of sugar. I love this. Larissa, I'm curious for you, thinking a little bit more, how can testers help assert the benefits of modern agile development while continuing to shift left with their devs?
Yeah. So, and for me, it's one thing. I think we need to get back to the basics. And I remember, I don't know, 8 years ago, I used to say this like twice a day. Is a bug found in production is 140 times more costly than the one found in requirements. If you're talking about waterfall, So this needs to be our mantra. So we need to get agile because we need to frequent a constant feedback and early feedback. As early the feedback we have is less costly than the fact. So we need to have this really clear, and it's amazing. When I say this nowadays, people look at me and say, really? And I say, oh my God, yes, really. And so I don't know, maybe we stopped saying this and people just forgot that the more the time passes, more costly is the bug. So we need frequent and early feedback. And one other thing, building up on the agile ways of working in DevOps, as Lisa said, I love that, relabeling it, is to go into observability and do the production readiness review. So go through all the things related to quality when we talk about the PRR. Have a meeting with the business, with the SNR team, the architect, the devs, and us to understand where can we implement unit testing, where can we implement component testing, where we can be more automated so we can have also deploy whenever we want. So when we get to this and say, hey, if we got more agile, we can deploy whenever we want. How does that sound? We have the right to do so. Then people will start to say, okay, maybe.
I like that. I like that. Always bring it back to the business, y'all. Always bring it back to the business. But I think too, I mean, no, Erica Chestnut, one of my favorite leaders out there. I love her so much. And y'all, definitely, if you're not already following Erica Chestnut, she's an amazing, amazing leader. She has been head of quality at a number of enterprise organizations. She also does leadership coaching on the side. Fun facts, you can look her up. But I love this one line she said at a conference, and she was like, look, no one wants to be told their baby is ugly. And I 100% agree. And why would someone want to hear the same about their code, right? I'm curious for y'all, like, what are some recommendations do you have for QA professionals that take pride in breaking things to start, building more productive and less antagonistic conversations with their devs? And I want to start with Lisa.
Going back to Larissa's idea earlier of DevBox testing, I've done something similar. And Janet and I call it show me, and some people call it desk checking, where we need to get involved as early as we can and try to focus on bug prevention. So ask the friendliest developer you can find, hey, when you're about to check in your changes for that user story, would you mind spending a few minutes just walking through me what you did and what automated tests you have, how have you tested it and how does it work? And so just spending 10 minutes going through, 99 times out of 100, you're going to find some problems. And even as they're showing it to you, they're going to go, oh, I missed this, or you're going to have a good conversation. And so you're building a positive collaboration. You've helped them, and you also get empathy for what they're doing and how difficult it can be to understand the story and write the appropriate code. So I think that's a good way to start building a positive collaboration and a stepping stone to collaborating a lot more.
I like that. And y'all, shout out to all of y'all that are continuing to do async work together. I cannot stand getting a meeting on my calendar without an agenda. It drives me wild. And while I do think that there is importance for face-to-face conversations, I'm also a huge fan of just picking up my phone and sending a quick selfie video to the person just to get in there, right? Just to get in there so they have a face to the name. It's so important for building relationships asynchronously. Do not hog other people's calendar time if you really do not need to. Just an opinion for me here. But I want to go over to Larissa, kind of thinking same question here. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I love what Lisa said, and I love your idea of the video. We'll try that, that for sure. But one thing that back in the days, really back in the days, once I was called the defect queen, and I was so proud of it. But nowadays, it's not the time to be the defect queen, king, or whatever. Now is the time for us, instead of the metric of finding bugs, how many bugs were found, we need to shift to how much value we have delivered to our customer. How much we have delivered to our customer. And the only way to do this again is as a team. So if we shift the mindset from, hey, you're not going to get anywhere with the bugs because the product is not being delivered. Instead of that, let us consider and be the metric to pursue how much value we have delivered, and then all the team needs to pursue that metric. So get one metric only for QAs or that nowadays is just not good. It's not worthwhile if we want to create this relationship. I used to say for all the people that I was hiring or talking to, newcomers, etc., that the most pressing skill for QA is communication, and it still is communication. Because instead of saying, hey, your code is trash, you said, oh, no, maybe something here is not that good. Could you take a look at that? It's completely different. But if we change the metric and we go back to empathy and go back to communication, we can get everything we want, actually.
No, I love that. And again, for anyone who's just tuning in over here, if you do have another meeting, we'll make sure to get you this recording. We will leave a little bit of room at time at the end for any questions. And I saw you again, Mike. So I'll make sure we get to you. But I think that's really powerful what you both said. For me, one of the biggest things that I've seen from, building community programs for developers, automation, engineers is a lot of developers, they do want to connect with the users. They do want to know early on, hey, how is this impacting your workflow? And they don't always get that live connection, right? So often it's product, and I love my product leaders too, God bless you. But, they're the ones hogging those customer conversations. And so oftentimes it's hard for, FaceTime to happen. And if you don't have internal infrastructure in place, you don't have a dedicated DevRel or professional community builder, some of it can be very ad hoc. So I just think for anyone who doesn't have that, I really do see QA, you can be a really effective bridge for making some of those relationships happen. Because I think so oftentimes, when you're in the software development, you're in the trenches, you're just trying to have a productive day. Depression is at an all-time high for our software developers. We're being asked to do more with less. In these economic times, they just want to do what they love in code. Marketing is asking them to write content. I've never done that before. So really think about QA leaders, get inspired, and work with your customer success. See what are their opportunities and ways that you can help be a pipeline for your developers and yourself getting involved with those customer conversations. What is the value there? Because I think so oftentimes you're talking about, Larissa, connecting back and value into the customer, but it's hard for someone to feel connected to something or someone that they've never met before. What are your thoughts on that? I'm going to start with Larissa.
Yes, so for me, it's really to start to build the relationship. So, okay, so you don't know, we need to build not only the relationship, but the emotional connection to the person. For me, the emotional connection behind all the relationships we have is the most important thing. So, and this must be something intentional that we do. We need to look up for this. We need to look for this. What is the emotional connection I have with that person? What is the emotional connection I have with the product? So whenever we are able to establish it, even remotely, even if we have never seen this before, it's really worthwhile. And for me, I have seen this, and I always look for the emotional connection. Sometimes it may take longer. Sometimes we must be creative, but we can always relate to it if we find it.
Yeah, one of my internal hashtags, again, in the Happy Meal edition of Game of Thrones, one of my internal campaigns that I have is my hashtag ain't above bribery. And I've actually sent hoodies to some of my developers and engineers. It's true. It's true. I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to get where I've been as someone who, used to manage a 60+ caseload of homeless youth. I'm like, how did I get here? But I do think you're right. And I also tell everyone who's having challenges or confrontations with their internal leaders is that you cannot build a house of trust if you do not have a foundation of time. You cannot rush time. Sometimes we are in a sprint. Things are moving quickly, but the trust that you are expecting of others, it does not happen overnight. So make sure that you're being consistent there. I think that's so important. But Lisa, I see you clapping over here. You were going to chime in.
Yeah, that connection with customers that you were talking about is so important. And too many development teams, they write the code, they throw it over the wall to operations, and then if there's a bug, there's some separate maintenance team that takes care of it. And I think as testers, we can really try to help bring on another important part of that DevOps culture, which is we built our product, we're running our product, we're taking care of it in production. Mm-hmm. And I have found it really helpful on my own, build relationships with the platform engineers, the site reliability engineers, and especially the managers of those people, and get their support, because a lot of times they really get it. They're feeling the customer pain, and then they can kind of come back and help you collaborate with your team. Let's start understanding the tools, the log data we can look at, the dashboards that we can look at. As testers, we can learn to do that, and then we can bring a problem like, hey, developer, I saw this 500 error over and over in production. Do you think we could look into that? Or, we see a number of customers dropping off and not subscribing to our service at this point in time. Can we talk about that? And we can really help build those bridges.
I love that. I love that so much. And we do just have 2 more pre-submitted questions from y'all in the community that couldn't be here. And then we're going to make sure that we get to some of y'all that DM'd me. And I see over there, Mike, I'm so excited about this. I want to make sure we covered another topic here. Again, thinking about, for anyone who's just tuning in live, talking about building more effective relationships with your devs. As risk-averse quality professionals, wondering what are some effective probing questions? And y'all mentioned this a little bit earlier, so I want to kind of dive in here. What are some effective probing questions that you've leveraged to get developers to share more areas of code that they may feel less confident about with their QA counterparts? I'm start with Lisa.
Yeah, I like to sit down with them virtually or in person and say, hey, I see you've been working on this story. Can you show me the parts of the code that might have more risk, or where help me figure out where should we be focusing our testing more, and how maybe how this could relate to other parts of the system, and just get them talking about that, because they're going to know what parts of the code are more fragile. Maybe there are links to older parts of the application or external systems where things could be chancy, and so it helps them explain their own concerns, and it isn't a threatening way. We're not telling them they wrote bad code. We're just asking them to help us focus on risk, and I think that's a good way to do it.
I love that. Larissa, same question. Probing questions topic, so trendy.
So one question that is really interesting is to get and say, what were the assumptions you made when you create your code? Because based on that, we can create some tests based on the assumptions to see to break it, if we want to break it. But when we build the relationship and the trust behind it, we see that usually the devs come to us and also say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with this. Can you test more surely? And it's really this. So what part of the code you think is the most challenging to test, or what need the additional testing code review, or I need to look it up? So when we do this type of questions, they say, let me think. Yeah, you better look more into this, because I built it, but I'm not really comfortable with that. And those are the assumptions I made. Please check it out. So for me, that's it.
I love that. And we could, honestly, this topic is going to continue to be prevalent in our industry for years to come. Sorry, AI. But I wanted to say as well, we do want to make sure we get to some live questions here. So the one last question that we had here, curious, as CTOs and engineering teams, they're increasingly shifting to DORA metrics. I'm wondering, what advice would you give to those new QA managers or those QA leads that are doing the same work without the title, pay, or recognition? We see y'all. What advice would you give them to help tie their own KPIs to developer output and productivity? And I'm going to start with Lisa.
Well, the key DORA metrics are really good ways to track effectiveness of our development and delivery processes. And a shout out here to the Google DORA community. I'll give you a link to put in the show notes. I found it really helpful. But they don't necessarily measure product quality, and they certainly don't measure developer output and productivity. But what I recommend teams doing is sit down, and the first thing to do is figure out what is your biggest problem. Well, the first thing to do is sit down and figure out what is quality to you. What is quality in the thing that you're creating, and what level of quality can you commit to delivering eventually? And then what's the biggest thing in your way to achieving that level of quality? And let's then start designing experiments to overcome those problems. And that's when you want to figure out how do you measure the progress of that experiment? What things make sense? So I like to start with the goal for the experiment, the hypothesis, and then find a way to measure rather than starting with the measurement.
I like that a lot. I'm making a note. Larissa.
Yeah, so, and the DORA metrics, they are there, and they are there for a long time. And as Lisa said, not really we can do to measure the product quality. So we need to break down a little bit. So for example, when we talk about deployment frequency, what that could mean to quality. So the low deployment frequency could indicate that the testing, the code review process are failing. And so we're unable to discover these early bugs, but also we need to understand context. For example, if I have a mobile app and I don't want to release frequently because the person that is going to use that app lives in a place that doesn't have internet, we need to understand the context, and then we understand the metrics. But even so, let us say this is a valid metric. We can measure the code review appointments, broken builds, etc. When we talk about lead time for change, maybe the testing process is causing bottlenecks in CI/CD with manual testing or maybe flake automated testing. We can measure this with automation penetration, rework on automated tests. The change failure rate, again, maybe it was not tested enough or had little test coverage. So let's measure test coverage. Let's do traceability. I love traceability, man. Let's do traceability. And the mean time to recovery, this is a little bit hard because maybe the mean time to recover just means we don't have the resources to fix it at that time. But also we can have a robust rollback process in place. Or, for example, maybe this means that we didn't test adequately the continuous integration, delivery, deployment. So we could measure those type of things. When we have a longer time, what does that mean? Context again. So as Lisa said, we need to understand quality and we need to understand the context of the team.
I love that so much, and that's powerful. And y'all have been on fire in my DMs, so I want to make sure that we get to y'all in the order that they are received. I do want to just say real fast here too. I feel like we should start like a Dear Abby, newsletter, but for people in software quality. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, y'all, because some of y'all sent some really powerful messages here. I do want to just say, putting my marketing hat on for one brief second before we bring some of y'all up on here to talk with our amazing leaders. Just again, remember, y'all, this is just a preview of what you're going to get at Agile Testing Days USA. And again, for anyone who has been impacted by recent layoffs, the team is really, really working to make sure those who can't afford to come can get a free ticket. There's a ton of different discounts available for you all, including today and one day only. They're doing an Agile TD discount for the 4th. Because we thought it'd be festive. You're welcome, society. Very original, but it still tracks. You can use Agile Force _40 to get a 40% discount. If you can't make it though, no worries. Like if you don't have the money, but you live in the Chicago area, I don't know. One of the people is literally driving across the country to save on airfare. So it's a good way to network. But I do want to also say too, these two amazing speakers are going to be here at Agile Testing Days USA. Lisa and Janet are doing an amazing one-day tutorial, also talks. They're going to have lean coffee. Larissa is also going to be here doing a talk as well. You can meet them in person. I'll be there. It's true. It's true. I'm really excited to see all y'all that can make it. I do want to leave time for just a few quick questions here. Let me bring up, let me see if he's still here. Mike, are you still there? Let me see here. And then I've got Penny queued as well. I used to do Twitter Spaces, y'all, but we know how Twitter is right now, so I'm gonna take that back. There is my mic. I love that. Boop boop. Bringing him up. Mr. Mike Rosato, how are you, friend?
Hey, Tristan, doing good, doing great. Thanks for hosting this. It's been wonderful listening to the speakers. Thank you to Lisa for sharing, and muito obrigado, Larissa, por compartilhar.
I love the Portuguese.
So, falo muito pouco português. But so my question is for Lisa. She mentioned difficulty learning TDD, and I was going to ask, in your company, have y'all ever tried doing like a dojo as a blameless environment, so that people can learn and practice TDD, and kind of the same thing goes for DDD, so have y'all tried doing dojos to kind of learn and have other people practice at the same time while you're doing it?
Absolutely, Mike. I wish I'd have thought to mention that. So I'm really glad you asked that question. But yeah, at the last full-time job I had, we had a weekly kata, which I guess is the same sort of thing as a dojo, where we would, get some kind of fun exercise to develop test first, and we'd use ensemble programming and work all together on it. And that was something we spent at least an hour on every week. And even though we were already doing test-driven development, it was just a way to keep improving our skills and keep finding better techniques to use. And one of the first teams I guess the second team I joined that was doing test-driven development, or maybe it was the third team, but anyway, nobody knew how to do it. And so we had like lunchtime brown bags where we would just all get together and practice and try it out. So that is a wonderful idea. And there are lots of good resources out there to do it. So thank you.
And just to piggyback off that too, just, creative wise, I had a customer and they did a similar thing, but they would have stickers for the different belts. And when the lockdown happened, they switched to emojis. So anyone who was invested X amount of time doing it, they kept on moving up the belt level. And as someone who used to do martial arts, I absolutely love that. So there were a few black belts and senseis. But that was a really, really good point there, Mike, and I appreciate that. I want to make sure I also bring up, there is one other dear person here.
Just real quick, Mike, if you have some good online resources to share for people to get started with that, please send them to us so we can share them.
Yeah, definitely. There's a book on dojos written.
Oops.
Well, they'll come. They'll take a moment here. It's okay. We love a live event. We love a live event. So Mike actually is taking a moment here. So Mike, actually, just because I can only have so many people speak at one time, God bless America, here we are. Please feel free to share any of those resources, reshare this event, put any of those resources out there. You can also continue the conversation in the Agile TD Zone community on Slack. It's definitely vibing right now. I'm going to switch you to listening. I love that. And I'm going to bring up, wah, 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 wah. Let's see over here. Let's see if our microphone is on. Okay, so Penny, you have to request to speak. And while Penny is requesting to speak, I'm going to bring her up in a second. I want to know a little bit more from you, Lisa. What can people expect from your one-day tutorial with Janet?
Oh, we're going to work together to learn a lot of techniques to apply their holistic testing model, which is engaging the whole team in activities all the way around the software development infinite loop, and different ways that we can add value at every step of the development process.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. I love that. And I've been seeing the registration numbers offline, so I know that it's in hot demand now more than ever. So I'm super stoked about that. We also have, before we bring on our esteemed guest over here, Larissa, what can people expect to have as a key takeaway from your talk, and what's it about?
Okay, so I will have two talks. One, it's about how to build a chapter, how to share knowledge between completely independent agile teams. For me, this has been a struggle in the past. And the other talk is how can we prioritize our test case, our tests, with the impact to the customer and value to the customer.
I love that. I love that. And we also have an esteemed guest with us today, the one, the only, Penny Howard. How are you, Penny?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I loved your DM, and so I wanted to bring you up on stage. I'm not sure if it was more of a comment and or a question, but you've had years in the industry, so I think people can learn from this. Do you mind sharing?
Not at all. Yeah, I was just, going back to the topic itself. And one thing that I've recognized over the years is there are a lot of testers out there who, let me put it this way. There are those of us, Tristan, who can talk to a brick wall and have a full conversation.
And we have.
But there are also those that are rather timid or uncomfortable opening conversations with developers just because they feel like they're so smart and so awesome in their code and they think they'll bark at them or something. I don't know. But what I've come across is if you find something that you can easily open a conversation, but the whole goal about relationships is just open the conversation, right? That's how you start. And so ask them, say, hey, since we're just getting to know each other, can I just have a few minutes of your time and talk about this bug report that I put in? There's a thing I put in Jira and I'd like your feedback, because it's a really it's not something that's going to draw a lot of conflict. You're saying, how can I best work with you? How can we communicate best? And there are a lot of people with preferences, so that is helpful.
So as a follow-up question to that, though, I'm curious, and this is open for the whole panel too. We're talking a lot about, probing questions, but so oftentimes, right, and that's something gets escalated on Slack or in Jira comments, and it is not going well. And I like to remind everyone and dear listeners that passive aggressiveness is still a form of aggression. But I wanted to, what is a good de-escalation start of a conversation, right? So something is not going well, you finally convinced them to jump onto Zoom, you've talked a little bit through that. What's something you've seen to be effective for de-escalating a heated Slack conversation that's now come onto Zoom? And I'm going to open that up to the panel.
One thing that I have seen working very well is for us to admit and to say, hey, I think I misunderstood something, or we admit our blame, whatever it is, into it, and say, not putting the blaming game, but saying, being vulnerable, saying, I misunderstood, I didn't get this correct. Can you help me out? When you admit something and you show vulnerability, and then when you ask help, everything works better and we can de-escalate way easier.
I like that. Admit blame and do it in a public setting, Brene Brown says. I've been guilty of that myself. Sorry, past House of Stage Mom members. Lisa, same question. De-escalation tactic.
I'm afraid sometimes I escalate things, but I think framing it similar to what Larissa said, framing it as asking for help. People love to help, and once they help you, you're their friend forever. I think that's called the Ben Franklin effect. It's just a human thing. If you've helped somebody, then you feel like you owe them something. I don't know why. Or maybe it's giving a gift that's a Ben Franklin effect. But anyways, just doing something, asking for help is a great way to frame it.
I love that. Penny, de-escalation.
Yes, my key for that is It's very simple. Just remember, always remember that asking is always more powerful than telling. Ask, always.
I love that. Can you say that one more time? Because I'm gonna engrave that on my wall.
Well, you do it all the time.
I do.
If you listen to people that are very effective in communication, they're typically asking rather than telling. If you're asking, it's far more powerful, and you're actually controlling the conversation by doing so. But it's far more powerful, and it's very difficult to get mad at someone or upset about something if they're just asking a question. Granted, the words matter. The words always matter.
I love that so much. We have a request for someone to speak, and I can only have 4. Penny, you're a gem. I'm gonna go switch you back to listening. Adore you. And I'm gonna bring up someone else here. Ooh. Okay. Let's see here. This is gonna be our last question of the day. Hello, Miranda. How are you, friend?
Hey, Tristan, I am so sorry. I'm multitasking here. I didn't even realize I raised my hand.
But you're here.
I am here.
Hi.
So I guess I'll tell you about myself. My daughter is a student. She's a person with an intellectual disability. And so I developed an app service to improve the IEP communication. In 2021, I think it was like 33 billion with a B dollars were paid out to families of special education students who filed lawsuits against their school districts because they didn't meet the goals outlined on this IEP, this federal document. They didn't meet those goals. And so I just developed this app because it's a communication problem. The parents sued these school districts, and they won in most instances because they didn't understand why their kiddos weren't reaching their IEP goals. I had the same problem with my daughter McCoy. And so it never occurred to me to sue the school. I became a substitute teacher. It's like, maybe if I get in there, I can figure out what's going on. Like, why are we making these goals and she's still not able to achieve them? And so I developed this app, and I'm having trouble finding someone to help me. Like, I have these ideas, and of course I need code. And then this is not my industry. And so I'm a non-tech ed tech founder. And so I'm just looking for folks. I'm frequenting rooms like this to try to learn something and to try to look for a partner. That's what I'm looking for someone who's passionate. You being in the nonprofit space, I know you understand this. It's like someone with some buy-in into the special education community, and someone interested in being a CTO. Really, that's what brought me to this room. And a lot of things were foreign to me, but I was also able to take some good notes, I believe. And I just think it's so funny that I accidentally raised my hand and you brought me up. And I'm just grateful because I wouldn't have said anything, but it was meant to be.
Well,
Thank you.
You are so welcome, and I love this question, and I'm gonna open up to the panel here. You couldn't find a better room. I think God is good every day, all day, so I think this is actually really funny. Sometimes multitasking works in our favor, usually not. But I do want to open up that question, right? I'm gonna start off with Lisa. What advice would you give to our Miranda right here, thinking a little bit more in terms of kind of getting some of that partnership, getting some of that buy-in? How would you go about doing that, Lisa?
Well, it's definitely not my area of expertise, but I would try to reach out to the open source community. It sounds like it's something that would be ideal as an open source project. And I've been helping a couple of people lately with their pet open source projects. And I won't say it's easy to do. People are busy. It's hard for them to contribute, but you've got there's such a great motive behind it, and it could help so many people. So I would just start looking for ways to meet people in that open space community.
I love that. Larissa, same question.
Yeah, so I would post something to LinkedIn and reach out to the community LinkedIn. I ask them to forward, to share until we get someone that has that emotional connection that you have, Miranda. It's great to have the buy-in to step up to assist you. So just put a post into LinkedIn and we share, and you will get, because this is what I have seen. The community is so powerful. I'm really amazed. I just was laid off into this major layoffs that the IT companies having, and the community, it's so warm and welcoming and amazing that we can find anything.
I agree. And I would just say, Miranda, too, putting my marketing hat on for a second, don't forget to continue to do what you've already been doing and telling that story and dripping out the content in sequences. Make sure you have the right hashtag toolkit. And I can send you a resource offline for kind of how to brand a little bit more on social media. Just keep on getting out there, like they said, reaching out to different communities, but you also need to be using the right hashtags so your posts are getting to the right places. Love that you're doing videos. Remember, again, per Forbes, videos have 2 to 3 times more likely to be engaged versus a static post, but you want to get the right hashtags too, and you want to be in the right conversations. I would say, in addition to the Agile TD Zone community, I love we're talking about Lisa and getting out more in the open source community and echoing Larissa, get that consistency going on LinkedIn. But you got this. And my network is open to all of y'all, so you can always DM us anything you need, add me, find me. But we are going to be wrapping up in just a second, Miranda. So I want to say thank you so much for that question, and let's continue the conversation offline. I'm going to switch you back to listening, and I just hope you have a blessed day. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you. Perfection. All right. So y'all, we are just a little bit over a minute here. I like to keep these short and sweet, but just as we wrap up here, Lisa, Larissa, are you ready for a few quick rapid fire questions?
Sure.
Yay! Okay. So, favorite Star Wars character? Lisa.
Yoda.
I like that. It's on brand. It tracks. Larissa, favorite Star Wars character?
Grogu.
Also on brand. I love that. Mine would definitely be Emperor Palpatine. I know. Controversial.
Awesome.
A lot.
Emperor Palpatine. That's, he just had a way with people. You know what I mean? Okay, what's the podcast that you currently cannot stop listening to in software testing or just in leadership in general? Or it could be any podcast.
Boy, I have total recency bias. I just listened to an Agile Mentors podcast this morning on good questions to ask in interviews to understand the company culture and whether you really want to work there. And I thought it was really good. So that's what I would recommend.
Larissa, same question. What's a podcast you can't stop listening to right now and why?
I don't have anyone on top of my mind. I have been listening anything. Too busy with the dogs.
She has a ranch, y'all, and she has some amazing, amazing dogs as well, too. How many Chihuahuas do you have now?
I have 19 Chihuahuas, 3 pups, and 1 Muddy.
We adore you and your partner for keeping your furry family also quiet during this call, because that is a beautiful. How big is your ranch though again?
It has, I would say in meters, because I don't know in other, but it's 1,000 meters square. So they have a lot of space to walk. They're small.
I love that so much. Last question, y'all. If you could think back a little bit more when it comes to, we talked a little bit about unlearning originally with your developers, strategies, other people. I'm curious for you, if you could go back in time, what would be one piece of advice that you would have given to your developers when you first started off in your career? Those developers that are up late at night, and some of them are listening to this conversation right now. What's one piece of advice that you would give to those developers, I guess, right now, who are stressed, who are worried about their jobs being taken by AI, feeling they're doing too much with very little? What's one piece of advice you would give them right now, Lisa?
I'd say don't work alone. Don't struggle alone. Collaborate. Get help. Larissa or somebody said earlier about being vulnerable. Don't be afraid and look for your allies and learn together.
I love that. Larissa, same question.
Yeah, AI is not going to take away our jobs. AI is going to help us. So to help us taking out the tedious job. So don't stress too much, get help and rest. Get the time to rest as well.
Yeah, that part, because no one wants no one wants to blow up in the middle of a sprint. I want to say as well, just because we are a little bit over, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who was listening live. Thank you so much for the DMs. We're going to share this recording after we've processed it. Again, you can use the discount for Agile Force _ 40 for 40% discount for Agile Testing Days USA. You can also reach out to the organizers if you have been impacted by recent layoffs and you're looking to network, connect with these amazing leaders that you're listening to right now, and our whole community. Let's continue the conversation, the Agile TD Zone community. Y'all are absolutely amazing. And I hope if y'all are listening up late in your part of the world, that you have a fabulous rest of your week. And for everyone else who's listening as well, happy intergalactic holiday, to quote Yoda. Try not, do, or do not. There is no try. I want to put that on my tombstone, and I firmly believe that. So stop trying and just start doing or do not. But there is no try. I adore you all. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk soon. Bye.